Good afternoon. It's now 1:30 p.m. on Monday. I guess this is our first meeting after the change of, it's called Eastern Standard Time, I believe, but we all gain an extra hour sleep. And I'm Godwin Chan, the Deputy Mayor and also the Chair of this Economic Development Committee. And on the screen joining me in the chamber, Councillor Shield, Councillor Neal, Councillor Tree, and Mayor West was test positive a couple of days ago for COVID. At this point in time, maybe he'll be, we haven't heard whether he'll be joining us online or not, but maybe he's on his way. But we do have a quorum, right, Mr. Clerk? So we can proceed. I'm calling the meeting to order and adoption of agenda. Now, I believe we did require motion to adopt the agenda. So would one of my committee colleagues and Councillor New move for I only need one person at a committee to adoption of agenda, any discussion, and welcome Mayor West. I did mention that we looking forward to seeing you online. You are there. Also, I want to welcome Regional Local Councillor DePaula, just join us. So, all those in favor of the adoption of agenda, the motion moved by Councillor New is passed unanimously. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest and genuine nature thereof? Seeing none. I guess wasting a cup of coffee does not count, that Mayor West. Yeah, thank you. I hope you feel better, Mayor West. Good, thank you. Moving on, the subject matter is the minutes of previous meeting. I believe all committee members and council members who are here with us have received in advance the minutes of the Economic Development Committee that was held a few months ago, March 28th this year. So is there any question, or I would like to have a committee member move a motion as recommended to have those minutes of March 28th, 2023 be adopted? I believe I saw Mayor West's hand. Yeah, Mayor West, I'll move a motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor of adoption of the minutes of the meeting that was held March 28th, 2023 be adopted. So carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. So noted. I believe we don't have any delegations. So let's move on to scheduled business. 5.1 is the update on the investment attraction subsector strategy. And this is going to be a presentation. And first, I'd like to invite Anthony Idro, the Director of Economic Development, come to the, I guess, presentation stage. And please note for everyone, including members of public may be attending virtually and staff, this is a 20-minute presentation. Director, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of council. I'm pleased to be here with you today to provide an update on the ongoing work related to the implementation of the city's investment attraction strategy. I'm pleased to be joined by Bill Elliott from Sequence Consulting, who will be responsible for delivering an overview of the recently completed subsector strategy. The subsector strategy builds on the recommendations of the investment attraction strategy to provide more detailed recommendations on the target sectors and potential markets. Before I turn it over to Bill, I'd like to begin with a bit of background. In 2022, next slide, please. In 2022, Council approved an investment attraction strategy that actively seeks to attract investment in key sectors and capabilities central to the future growth and competitiveness of the local economy. It is intended to act as a roadmap for future investment attraction activities and supports the city's current economic development strategy objectives. Building on the recommendations of the investment attraction strategy, the city engaged Sequence Consulting to support the development of a subsector strategy to further evaluate target sectors and refine future investment attraction activities. The subsector strategy was advanced with the support of York Region and Can Export and was completed in late fall 2023. This analysis will inform future investment attraction initiatives, including the activities proposed in the 2024 Investment Attraction Program. I'm pleased to introduce Bill Elliott, one of the principals at Sequence, to present the key findings of the subsector strategy. Bill?
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Elliott. And also, I want to take on this opportunity before your presentation to also welcome Councillor Thompson, is also joining us virtually. Mr. Bill Elliott, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having us here today.
You're welcome.
Give myself a little bit of water because, Your Worship, I came back from California a week ago today with COVID, and so I'm tested negative and everything like that, but it wasn't fun. So hopefully you're not going through too much pain.
But York Region, Richmond water is clean, so you can be assured of that.
Very good, very good. So first of all, I'd really like to congratulate Anthony and Brenda and their team. We get an opportunity to see a lot of economic development departments and work that we do, and part of our background and work that we do is economic development strategies, marketing, design work, and those types of things. And this project that your team has worked on with us is very progressive. We see very, very few economic development departments doing the kind of deep dive that you're looking at in terms of investment attraction. Not only just talking about what are the high level sectors within your community, but how do we dive into those subsectors, and then even deeper into those subsectors into what you think are the best assets that are there. We took an approach here to do that. And maybe if you can move forward just a little bit to the next slide. That doesn't show up all that well, does it? But we took an approach, and through the scope, that we would identify those subsectors, then go in and take a look at, we'll align those subsectors with what we felt that Richmond Hill's key value propositions were, classify them as tradable sectors versus non-tradable sectors. And what I mean by that is basically tradable sectors are those sectors within your community that really cater to the community itself. So healthcare and education, those are a couple of examples of that, but they don't necessarily bring new money into the community. Whereas, those are non-tradable sectors, and whereas tradable sectors are those that are bringing in investment from outside the region. So whether it be selling goods and services, those types of things. And then from there, we said, well, what are some of the geographic markets that we're going to look at for targeting? And we took into consideration, we tried to look at those markets that were maybe somewhat unique, that weren't markets that say maybe Toronto Global or York Region or some of the other organizations we're looking to go after, but still had what we felt were great value for Richmond Hill for investment attraction. And then we put together some recommended actions and activities, talked about who are the influencers, who's part of the team, who needs to be involved with this for a collaborative effort, and then put together some budgeting and resources for implementation of the plan. Maybe the next slide. So through this process, obviously we go through a process of quantitative data and qualitative data. So quantitative is, what are we looking at in terms of what's the actual real data? What's the situational analysis? What's really happening from StatsCan numbers and others. And so that also included doing a review of all the other strategies and different reports that the city has done over the years leading up to this. So you can see I have a whole list there that's probably difficult to read, but obviously labor market analysis, and particularly paying attention to occupational codes, sector employment, paying attention to North American Industry Classification System. And what those do is they tell you who's in your marketplace in terms of what jobs and in terms of what industries. And then, of course, we firmly believe that any strong investment attraction program starts off with a very strong business retention and expansion program. What are your local companies doing? What are their needs? What do they see for opportunities in terms of supply chain and those types of things? So we're able to go through and spend some time with your BRNE surveys, and that was done. Educational attainment is very important, and as you know, in Richmond Hill, is probably one of the premier value propositions for Richmond Hill in terms of this knowledge economy here and the knowledgeable workforce that you have here. Obviously, we want to know who are some of the companies that are here. So obviously going through various directories and databases there. Then key thing is, great, we can attract all this investment and everything like that, but have we got any place to put them? And so real estate and infrastructure related specifically to investment attraction. And, you know, it doesn't make sense to try and go out and attract a new electric vehicle battery plant if you don't have the land in that to be able to situate that. So really trying to match that up and saying, what have we got here in terms of opportunity for real estate and infrastructure? And supply of shovel-ready land sticks into that, or fits into that. Obviously, we took a look at not only the city's regional economic development strategy, but even broader ones in terms of what's going on, and reviewed the 2022 investment attraction strategy itself that you had. Then we take a look at that and say, well, what are the regional trends? And trends are so tough to keep up with today in terms of what's going on in the globe, and also from a North American, Canadian, and regional perspective. So, you know, some of those trends you look at, and it's a best efforts, because just when you make a decision one day, something happens, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. So comparing national, provincial, and regional, what are their targets? How do these sectors that we talk about and subsectors and niche areas, how do they fit in with what the federal government's looking at in terms of attracting investment in the provincial government and regional? Next slide, please. So as you can see, we identified your existing key sectors that you had there, and we tried to put some priority on that in terms of finance and insurance and PSTS, health and social service, and information and cultural services. And we'll dig down into that a little bit more. Certainly in terms of looking at investment attraction assets, as we mentioned earlier, talking about this highly educated workforce, the skilled workforce, and the diversity within the labor force itself. This whole technology theme that runs through it, and not just technology theme, but what we call technology adjacent, because technology is an enabler that reaches across all sectors now, and in many ways supports sectors. Best example I can give you of that is, some people don't call it the automotive sector anymore. They call it the mobility sector, because it's really all about mobility and all the things that happen in terms of mobility in terms of automotive. Obviously, I think maybe an overused to a certain extent asset that communities use is talking about desirable quality of life. But I think in terms of Richmond Hill, one of the things that we found very, very clearly and came out very, very strongly was this isn't just a speaking note. This is identifiable. This is a real thing. This is really happening in Richmond Hill. There is definitely a desirable quality of life here, and things that go with that. Obviously, proximity to markets and consumers. You know, you sit above the largest metropolitan area in Canada, and so you do have access and the transportation and infrastructure, and that all that's available to that. And then not only just to the GTA, but also beyond in terms of transportation and access to markets. And certainly in terms of existing companies that are here doing business globally and having a global reputation in terms of where they go. The last thing, post-education innovation partnerships. This is economic development organizations are starting to learn how important post-secondary education is to their communities. And it's not just in terms of students and running degree programs and things like that. It's research, development, innovation, and more importantly, commercialization. So how do you work closely with those institutions in terms of building that collaborative effort with them and local business and business that you're looking to attract to build commercialization in a number of areas, whether it be processes, products, services, those types of things. And we point out, for example, Click is a perfect example of that. And we think you've got a great opportunity to build on that. Can we go one more slide then, please? So key findings as we went through, and we've divided this up and we've kind of drilled in a little bit more, but things that we saw, taking into consideration all of these factors, very, very strong on alternative finance and fintech here. A lot of people think of, financial services as banking and insurance companies and things like that. Alternative finance has been growing exponentially, and that deals with near banking facilities, similar finance that isn't really traditionally your normal big five banks, but those that are involved in that marketplace and around it. And there's certainly significant strength here in Richmond Hill in that regard. Fintech, obviously, I mean, if we saw anything, if there's anything that was positive out of COVID, it was digitization. And so digitization, whether that be in our healthcare sector, whether it be in the way that government does business, whether it be in the way that financial services does business, or whether it be in the way that manufacturing occurs. So digitization and fintech, we all know that there was lots of opportunity for digitization and fintech. This leads into the digital healthcare, and same thing. And you have lots of strengths here. Environmental services, simply because there is strong engineering here and companies that are doing work in environmental services, which is broad, but certainly in terms of what's happening in terms of climate change and various environmental events and things like that. It runs everywhere from, new materials through to information technology to track environmental services, the whole gamut. And so it's broad. And one of the things that you'll find as we got into this, the sort of the cross-pollination that starts to happen, right? So you've got a company in IT services, but they may be providing services in environmental services, fintech, alternative finance, other areas. So it's really this cross-pollination that happens. Medical device manufacturing, I don't think I need to tell you much about that in terms of your strengths here. It's huge. But what we try to look at in terms of medical device manufacturing, keeping in mind availability of infrastructure and greenfield lands and that type of thing, was we tried to take a look at it and said, well, what do we think that can make medical device manufacturing more unique and be attractive for investment? And we really took a look at some of the work that's being done in terms of design work, processes, those types of things. And once again, medical device manufacturing is broad, and it's not just manufacturing itself, it's processes and that, it's the design work that goes on behind it and that type of thing, and testing and prototyping and those types of things. And we feel there's a lot of strength in Richmond Hill in terms of design. Same thing can be said about electronic products. Once again, obviously manufacturing here, but there's also a lot of design work and that's being done here. And I mean, to me, there's no better example than Highbar and what's happened with that company. And there's a number of others here. IT services, very broad. It's here. It's here to stay. You've got some great anchor tenants in that community, and it's here. We also talked about home office, regional office. You all know that there's some regional office headquarters here, and there's some home office headquarters here, and they're quite prevalent in terms of what's happening in the city. Next slide. So from there, we went into some subsector recommendations and looked at prioritizing some of this. And once again, global trends in that make some of this change from time to time. But we think if we're looking for some niche areas, this whole area of finance and insurance and alternative finance and fintech, we think that there's a great opportunity for Richmond Hill, not the least of which is you have this huge metropolitan area with all this finance just south of you called Toronto. And there's an opportunity for natural migration for some of that stuff that they realize doesn't have to be in a downtown location, doesn't have to pay those high rents, doesn't have to force their employees to go to work in that environment. And Richmond Hill is very strategically placed to take advantage of that. Same thing in terms of health, the digital healthcare and the medical devices, similar to what I had talked about earlier. And then this whole area of professional and technical services really lends itself to your high knowledge workforce here and the skilled workers and what can be done in all those areas. In terms of home regional office, we look at that as more of a reactive than a proactive. I think it's very difficult to try and develop a program where you go out and say, okay, we're going to try and directly solicit a bunch of regional offices or head offices. I don't think that's a good use of your time and money. I think that from a marketing perspective, you obviously make it known that there are these opportunities here and we have these anchor tenants here, and you're more reactive in terms of saying, do we have the data? Are we investment ready in case somebody asks us about these opportunities? Next slide, please. So then we talked about how do we put together an investment attraction program. And obviously, I mean, the first thing is to say, look, we want to attract investment. And but we need to look at what type of investment is suitable for us. You're always looking for something that's going to be a win-win situation. It's got to be a win for the company that's looking to locate, and it's got to be a win for your community. It's nothing worse than having an investment happen in a community and 3 years later they close up their doors and move somewhere else. And I've seen it happen, and it's not a great feeling. So ensure your community is investment ready, and go through some of the things that we talk about in terms of being investment ready. Factual marketing, success stories, and branding assets. I should say my colleague and partner, Chris Hokinson, is here with me, who worked on this project with us. And we're pleased to be doing your next project, which is the branding and marketing project. And Chris will be spearheading that project for you. So we understand that factual marketing, success stories, and those branding assets are very important. And those things that go well above just we're a great place to live, work, and play. Using digital tools. So how do you make sure that, just like everybody else moving to digitization, how do you make sure that your economic development department can be as efficient as it can be in terms of using digital tools? And it's more than just CRM, but CRM is a tool that can be used for communication. It can be used for storing information, decimating information, and that type of thing. So target the key subsectors and markets for investment attraction, which was part of this exercise here that we did here. And then the other thing is economic development is a team sport, and it really needs the work of a much broader team than just economic development. So who are the key influencers? Who are the people that we need to build relationships with? Who are the partners in the community? And that reaches into not only just business associations and businesses and other departments within the city, but also regional partners, provincial partners, federal partners, and also how do you take advantage of the diaspora that's in your community as well. The other thing is, and I've seen this so many times, communities decide they want to get into investment attraction and they think they just have to jump on a plane and fly somewhere and do some business and meet some people. Well, you can't do that. You have to really go through a process of building some research capability internally in terms of, identifying the strengths, which you've done so far in that, and where's all this going. And then your BR&E program is also a very important part of that in terms of understanding what's happening with supply chains. Are there gaps in those supply chains that present opportunities, and who are the contacts? Then obviously we talk about then once you've done all that, how do you go to market? And we'll talk about that a little bit more. How do you budget for that? And then what type of events do you budget? So, next slide, please. So as with anything else, This is a living document. This is a living plan. And nothing became more evident as we're finishing up this program, and world events hit us right between the eyes, right, Brenda? So we went through the subsectors. We really looked at some of those markets, those geographic markets, that there's a lot of things happening in this area. And I won't go into detail on all these, but you'll see under digital healthcare, there's Israel with a star there, and under IT services, there's India with a star there. Those are two very, very good markets for both of those subsectors. Obviously, with what's going on with Israel, it goes without saying why that is no longer on the list. And of course, with the diplomatic problems that we've had recently with India, that certainly has thrown a monkey wrench into that as well. So I've said to Brenda and Anthony, we're going to be coming back to you with some other alternative recommendations and sort of fill in the blanks there. As a matter of fact, I was on a West Coast trip last week, and part of while I was there, I was taking a look and had a bit of a Richmond Hill lens in the back of my mind. And I have some, I just haven't, with COVID last week, I haven't had a chance to make any formal recommendations or anything like that. So let's talk about how do you go to market. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk about sort of, we've identified 3 areas in terms of going to market, and hopefully fits in with what you're somewhat used to doing already. Some of it maybe goes a little bit broader than what you're doing, but we've kind of segmented them. So trade missions, which I believe you've done in the past, which is really a trip to a local market with, or to a foreign market with local companies and the mayor, led by the mayor, maybe around a specific trade show, may be related to that market, but also if it's a global trade show and you have companies coming from all over the world, you can get broader than that. Maybe in conjunction with broader partners such as the Commissioner's Trade Service, senior levels of government, or business association with a big chamber of commerce or whomever. And it can be strictly trade related, or there can be sort of a vertical program that runs with it in terms of investment attraction. So our suggestion is that economic development would sort of plan and lead and execute this. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to be successful and do this right, but it can also pay off big dividends. Next slide. So in-market visitation program, and I can't emphasize this enough, and it needs support from council, and it needs support from other within the city, in that everybody thinks you have to go on a trip and you need to come back with an investment. Well, just like you need to do internal research in that before you go, sometimes you have to do an in-market visit and do an exploratory trip. And that exploratory trip is to have staff gain knowledge, not only in terms of the market itself, but also in what's going on in terms of the subsector and the geographic region. And so it's an educational trip. And as I say, it's exploratory. It also may include going to a concert or a conference, not a concert, sorry, a conference, exhibition, a trade show that really is, provides valuable feedback and information in terms of that subsector and what's going on there in terms of, what's happening for the latest trends in that within that subsector. I used to go to the APMA, Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association, and I didn't go there to try and solicit new business. I went there to learn what was happening and all the new developments and everything like that in the automotive sector. And it was probably one of the most educational events that I ever went to. So once again, it doesn't stop you from having a bit of an investment attraction program along with that. And once again, planned, executed by ECDev and partners that may be involved. Now, and then the last one, a specific investment attraction program. So it's a trip to a targeted geographic area, pre-qualified meetings, done your homework before you've gone, and some specific meetings set up with prospects to really have those, to start those, have those conversations as to why would that company take a look at expanding or investing in Richmond Hill? Once again, may coincide with a conference or trade show or whatever, but definitely driven by economic development. Next slide. So what's the key messaging that came out of this? Well, first of all, it's not a quick fix. Investment attraction programs is a long process. It's not an event, it's a process, and it requires sustained long-term commitment. I started in this business in 2000, I guess it was. And I should tell you, my background was I was vice president of business development for an organization called Canada's Technology Triangle, which was the investment attraction organization for Waterloo Region. And I remember going to Germany, because there's a number of reasons why we went to Germany. And it wasn't just because there's a German population based in Waterloo Region, but the sectors matched up very well. But, we were a little naive in thinking that we could go there once and automatically we're going to start to get some business coming our way. And I used to travel there at least twice a year. And you built up a partnership with not only people there, but also with some companies and things like that. And some of the investments that we were successful in winning, they didn't happen until 5 years down the road. So the other thing is that your program needs to be constantly evaluated. You always got to look at it. It's like any other strategic plan. You got to look at it and say, are we accomplishing what we need to accomplish? Or is what we need to accomplish still the same as what we set out to do? So you have to really take a look at how's it working? How does it come about? I'll give you a couple examples. I was fortunate enough to be one of the founding members of two pan-regional groups. One was called the Ontario Technology Quarter, and the other one was called the Ontario Food Cluster. And they were very successful when we set them up, but they've been in business for quite some time. Now, full disclosure, I haven't been involved with either one of those groups. Well, Ontario Technology Quarter is no longer in business, but Ontario Food Cluster is. I haven't been involved with them for a long time, but those are situations where you need to constantly go back and reevaluate and say, are they doing what they were set up to be doing? And, is it still achieving results? And what are those results that we are looking to achieve? The other thing, in-market research and knowledge. I can't emphasize that enough. Just cannot emphasize it enough. And knowing where trends are happening in markets. So everybody goes to Silicon Valley because there's tons of stuff that happens in Silicon Valley. You go to Southern California, tons of things that happen in Southern California. But there are other areas that you're not getting lost in the shuffle that you can pick to choose to go to, where there is some really, really cool and unique innovation and opportunities developing. And they're looking at saying, hey, we need, we've got some needs. What can Richmond Hill do to satisfy some of those needs? So the other thing is foreign direct investment training. I'm biased. I took foreign direct investment training from Department of Foreign Affairs way back in 2000, I guess it was, and obviously had a lot of hands-on on the ground training. Actually, when I left Waterloo Region in 2012, I had done 22 international trips that year. And I said, look, I'm too old for this. Inside of a hotel room looks the same whether you're in Sao Paulo or Beijing or London or wherever. So, and that's when I ended up, I didn't even hang out at Consulting Shingle. I started getting phone calls as I started getting. But the problem is that I see so many communities that want to do an investment attraction, but to be blunt, they wouldn't know a deal if they stumbled over it. And, I said earlier about wanting to get on a plane and fly somewhere and try and do something. Well, heaven forbid if they catch something because they don't know what to do with it if they catch it. And so it's the old deal, it's better that somebody doesn't know you and has no impression than to have met you and have a bad impression. So I can't emphasize foreign direct investment training. And it doesn't need to be a deep drawn out process or anything like that. It's just an understanding of how foreign direct investment works. What are the trends? What's happening? Those types of things. The other key thing is we talked about earlier that it's a team sport. You know, typically economic development departments are small. They don't have a lot of staff and they have a lot of demands on their time. So how do they build their team? And not only that, but make sure that strategic partners within the community and outside the community know that you have a program and that you're in the business and know what your value propositions are and know what are the niche areas that you're looking to get involved with. And that's really important, really important. And because it builds that team and that knowledge. And not only that, but having your partners in that understand why investment attraction is important to the city. You know, what are the benefits of investment attraction? Why are you doing this? And not only that, along with it, you know, business retention and expansion that goes with it as well. Something like 85% of new investment is not what we call greenfield investment. It's mergers and acquisitions, it's strategic partnerships, it's joint ventures, it's outright purchases, those types of things. Or it's an expansion, or it's a foreign company that's got a new mandate and is expanding within your community. So very important. Yes, everybody wants a new Toyota plant, I used to say, but those are few and far between. Everybody wants a new battery plant like St. Thomas just got and received $18 billion in incentives from various levels of government. But we all know those opportunities are few and far between. And you can discuss the merits of that at some other conversation for a long period of time. But really, if you're in the game, let people know you're in the game, let people know what your assets are, let them know what you're looking to do within the game, and how can you work together as a team. So, and then lastly, but the city should evaluate opportunities to leverage local conferences that engage target subsectors. I think that's great. I think that's really good in terms of saying, hey, so if we put a stake in the ground, we say we want to be known for this, what can we do to let people know that we have this expertise here? How can we celebrate our successes, both with existing companies and having outside companies to come in and have a look-see and see what we're all about? So those are sort of the key messages that we've got coming out of here. So, did I make it in time?
Thank you, Mr. Ayler. If I may jump in here. In fact, it takes longer than what has been scheduled. But as a chair, I exercise discretion because I think it's important to hear, like yourself, from the Sequence Consulting, spending the time looking at information, the data, and the market, to ensuring that committee members and everyone who was in attendance, virtually or present or physically in chamber, actually got the whole picture. So yeah, it does goes beyond a scheduled time, but I think that is for, as I'm trying to explain, for the right reason, to hear all of it. So thank you for the presentation. You certainly leave, I believe, for myself and committee members quite a number of things to think about. On that note, I'd like to thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
And I would like to turn to the committee members. First, that perhaps if one would like to move a motion first, then I open up to hear the comments, questions, and then seeking, I guess, responses. Could I have one of the committee members move the motion to kick off the conversation that the presentation by Mr. Bill Elliott at Sequence Consulting regarding an update on the investment attraction, that's a keyword, subsector strategy, because we already have the investment attraction strategy we receive, and all comments be referred back to staff. And I see the hands of Councilor Michael Shears up. So I take it you want to remove her. So we do have the motion on the table, Mr. Clerk. So Councilor Shears, please start if you have any questions, comments. And our whole team of economic development is here. And also Mr. Bill Ayers and his associate or partner are also here. So, Councillor Shield.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Elliott, for the presentation. Thank you so much. And it looked nice to have this strategy in our city. So I have two questions about this strategy. The first one is according to slide number 2. When we talk about the tradable and non-tradable sectors. So I'm not quite sure there was a difference between tradable and non-tradable sectors. Can you make some examples of each of them? Like what industry is tradable and what industry is non-tradable?
Mr. Ayers?
Yeah, so in terms of those sectors, so non-tradable sectors, and the best example I can give you is, and we see this all the time when we do statistical data, probably the largest or the fastest growing sector in every community that we do work for is the healthcare sector. And I mean, that's understandable because we have aging population base and we're all getting old and we need more healthcare and then that. But typically, in terms of public health, and that growth is usually in public health. So public health, social services, that whole area there. But typically what happens there, that's a non-tradable sector in terms of the income that it generates or drives or whatever. It basically stays within the community. Now, if you take that a step further and you talk about maybe health informatics or some medical device manufacturing and those types of things, you're now developing products and services that can be sold outside the region and bring in outside investment and outside dollars in the region. So hopefully that's an area that would explain that to you.
Can I put it this way? Like tradable sectors, like it's physically I can touch it, like goods, consumer goods, or finance or technology. Non-tradable sectors like education is more abstract. Can I put it in this way?
That's true. That's true. But
I see.
It's true. Retail, for example, is typically a non-tradable sector because retail is usually within the community itself, right? Now, that's not hard and fast because we all know that there's certain areas in some of the examples that you gave where there is some action happening outside the community as well.
I see. My next question is about this strategy appears to be diversified across various sectors like IT, technologies, health products and services, etc. However, I'm uncertain whether it aligns with our city positioning. For example, our neighboring city, Markham, which positioned itself as a high technology city, and they offers additional incentive programs to attract tech companies. And I'm not sure whether it's more beneficial for our city to establish a distinct image and unique identity to clear position ourselves. What is the city of Richmond now? And our unique image and a clear position. I'm not sure that if we need to do that. And if it's better before making any strategy to attract different kinds of sectors. Before that, we have to make a clear position before that. I have no idea, just a discussion. It's an open-end discussion with you.
Right.
Thank you. Mr. Ayers? Through the chair.
Yeah.
The questions are through and answers through the chair.
Through
the
That's
chair.
the procedure.
Yeah.
Through the chair.
Yeah. So to answer that, I mean, first and foremost, communities are not islands. We're part of broader ecosystems. And so you can't ignore that. Obviously, you want to take a look at where there are specific strengths, but sometimes your neighbors make your strength even stronger. So, and not only that, but when companies make decisions, municipal boundaries become very blurred. They're looking at an area. So we did try to look at this. And so if you talk about IT services, one of the reasons why we talk about that, and we recognize that there's IT services in any number of other communities, but there is anchor tenants and there is strength here in Richmond Hill that can be built upon. And not just every IT services company, and that's broad in terms of, I said earlier that certainly in terms of technology, it is a cross-sector technology, and so it's used across a number of different areas. So it can't be ignored. It can't be ignored. It depends on how much you focus on that, and you see that where we put it on the list, it's further down. But because it is a cross-pollination enabler, and that it has to be there.
Councillor Shi.
Okay,
I think sorry.
Yeah, through the chair, I would say maybe just a suggestion, maybe healthcare products, because due to the aging population, I think healthcare industry will be booming. And I think it would be a good way and a good position for our city to address rather than IT, rather than high technologies. Just a suggestion, and just my mind, just come over my mind, and just want to share my thoughts. And for the chair, yeah, that's all my comments, actually. And I would like to move this motion. That's all about. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your input. Also noted on your last comment, although it's not a question, regarding the, I guess, healthcare or maybe towards aging population. Director Itero, you have something to add?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I want to sort of jump into this conversation a bit and sort of take a step back in that our work around the subsectors and the sectors that we've identified through both the investment attraction strategy and the subsector strategy, respectively, have attempted to take sort of a fact-based, data-based approach to the sectors that we think would be of highest value to Richmond Hill. And so when we evaluated opportunities, we didn't evaluate them in a vacuum. We evaluated them within the context of where we thought the opportunities would sit, not only within the sectors that are strong in Richmond Hill, our labor force, but also within our land supply and the types of opportunities that we could deliver to potential investors as we're going out and promoting Richmond Hill. There's no sense in promoting opportunities to investors that we can't offer an actual opportunity to invest here because we don't have the lands that they're looking for, as an example. And so it's been a very deliberate approach in terms of identifying the subsectors. And in terms of sort of our identity, our brand, I think there's a piece of work that Bill spoke to sort of in the tail end when highlighting Chris around the need to identify brand and marketing and approach as it relates to how we now position ourselves in front of these subsectors. And so, yes, that is an absolute work in progress and a piece of work that we're going to have to work towards in terms of ensuring that we clearly identify our value proposition. We have the proper marketing approach that catches people's attention. And ultimately, we have the product that we can sell to these potential clients to ultimately invest here. And so that's the broader approach that we're taking. And it does link directly to the sectors that were identified in the investment attraction strategy and the subsector strategy subsequently. So I just wanted to sort of jump in and clarify that for you, Councillor. Hopefully that helps.
Okay.
Thank you, Director, for jumping in to provide the background and the context and the other pieces that I have to consider, like land supply that I pick up as well. Certainly have linkages with our planning and development and so on. After all, we do have targeted centers and corridors and the hierarchy, as my committee member remember on our official plan update. And before I move to the another committee members who might have questions or offer to make comments, I'd like also to welcome Councillor Karen Civilis. I notice is also online now. So on that note, do I have another committee members who have questions, comments? And we do have a motion in front of us that we can vote on. I don't seem to be seeing one at this point in time. So maybe at the end, before I call the vote, I'd like to say that number one, thank you very much, Ms. Edith, for the presentation. I'm sure working along with our economic development team, lots of work to be done, as indicated, review the data, looking at a number of things. And perhaps it's quite a bit of information. I honestly feel that for all of us to digest. So just because we might not ask you the immediate questions, I'm sure my committee members will have more to perhaps follow up with our staff and perhaps through them to you, Mr. Elliott. I just want to maybe it's a comment, but also perhaps relating to this question. And I think the director just mentioned, and also when Councillor raising some of the questions, that the word branding, image, what's Richmond Hill known for? Give me 3 industries or 3 sectors, subsector ABC, right? We have that 4 sectors that identified quite a while back, and still here I see that. Now we want to drill in to say subsector, and I noted that. I think Mr. Arias, you're absolutely right. We're using today's information and data, having best efforts to try to plan out what the next maybe 4 to 5 years. So it's always a challenge. We are always catching up. And I like to touch on one part of the partnership with the post-secondary institution. While we don't have a physical campus in the city, but through the CLIC, the Center for Local Innovation and Collaboration, that we already have that strategic alliances, so to speak, with Ontario College of Art and University, Centennial College, and I think that could be expanded to other institutions, whether they're based in the Greater Toronto area or not, or even other post-secondary institutions around the world, talking about distance learning, talking about digitization. There's something to think about. One aspect is that they talk about FDI, and maybe this is not so much for you, maybe for staff. I remember, because I have been trying to promote it, Richmond Hill has been identified previously by a magazine, I believe, associated with the Financial Times of UK. And for 2 times, 2011, 2013, Richmond Hill has been named that one of the top cities under 300,000 people that is have the best FDI on a number of categories. So perhaps maybe it's to our staff, Mr. A, you're welcome to jump in there, but to the director, are those kind of things that we are being approached, or we actually have to actively market ourselves to get noticed? Through myself to you, I guess.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I think it's a bit of both, but primarily it's those types of awards are application driven recognition. And so you would need to submit an application to those organizations highlighting your values, and they would evaluate all of the various groups that have submitted applications and create a ranking. And that is part of what communities do to promote themselves to specific segments of the markets they're targeting. And so that is something that would be considered as part of a future marketing approach to the potential subsectors.
Thank you. Because the last time I see any Richmond Hill being named was 10 years ago, a decade ago. So if there's opportunity to more proactively to really promote our brand, our image, I hope that's something that economic team, unless Mr. suggests otherwise, should really be looked at. Because when I go within my circle, I always say, did you know Richmond Hill have been named 2 times, like the top 10 cities of a population in the Americas under 300,000? It not only sounds very impressive, but arouses people's attention regardless sector. So think about it. The other thing too is that, unfortunately, I don't see the numbers of the slides other than the second one, but on the target geographical area, perhaps it's a question to you, Mr. Elliott, you have the expertise. I would have thought, because a number of places, and we are living in a big but yet small world, for IT services, I would have thought of the India Silicon Valley, and it's true. Silicon Valley companies are actually moving on Texas, Georgia, and some other places for all kinds of reasons. I thought Portugal is, particularly Lisbon, is the place to go. Is the Web3 big, gigantic conference, so to speak, and even Tallinn in Estonia. Now, these are not places people think of every day, but from what I know, this is a top-notch places where a lot of activities in the ICT are happening. Is there any reason why it's not there? You're nodding, so I take it you're acknowledging. I'd like to hear your response.
Through the chair, I could add a number of other areas too. I mean, obviously, Scandinavian countries are very big in terms of IT services. And the great thing about Scandinavian countries are when they start to build a company, they automatically look at it as being a global company right from the get-go because they know that their market is too small. The Baltic countries that you talked about, yes, there certainly is there as well. What we tried to do here was we tried to look at those areas from an IT services and recognizing that we've put IT services a little bit lower down on our list of prioritization, that we tried to take a look at places that we think we would get the biggest bang for a buck. And even though they are prevalent and a lot of inundated with a lot of jurisdictions coming to look to attract investment, they are so big that there's an opportunity for more. I don't discount what you've said. Brazil. I spent a lot of time in Brazil. Right. Brazil is an absolutely fantastic country with IT and IT services, with some outstanding universities and that. But we're trying to get somewhat focused. And I think the other thing that you should be aware of, that this is a start to get out of the gate. I wouldn't suggest that these are the absolute answers for you, that these are the perfect answers for you. There's a bit of exploratory work that needs to be done here, and you got to be able to shift gears when you need to. Obviously, when you talk about Portugal and Mobile World Congress that goes on there and everything like that, certainly there's lots of things that go there, and it's a big market because you got people from all over the world coming there as well. But you can also get lost in the marketplace pretty easily as well. So that's I don't disagree with what you're saying. It's just a matter of how do we try and get the best targets. I think if you'll notice here, we talk about Asian countries, and part of the reason for that is that there is a lot going on in Asian countries right now. Asian countries have not been necessarily recognized globally for investment attraction, and Canada is putting a lot of effort into Asian countries right now, and it's probably the fastest growing marketplace globally right now. So that was sort of our process in terms of going through this. The other thing I just want to point out is, and we say, so we've identified. So for example, let's use London in the UK. So we've identified that for alternative financial services, but we also know that there's an amount of work that goes on there in terms of electronic products and those types of things. So now you're trying to build your program and saying, well, if I'm going to London and I'm going to be at a trade show or I'm doing something for 3 days or whatever, what is, and I'm there for alternative financial services. What's going on in electronic products and that type of thing that I can add on to that trip, so you can try to get a bigger bang for your buck as you're looking at some of these marketplaces.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm glad you mentioned about Rio and São Paulo of Brazil. Yeah, certainly IT hotbed, so to speak, for people in the know. But I'm also appreciate you mentioned ASEAN, because actually I was privileged to be one of the ceremony when they have a signing about potential also Canada and ASEAN. This is a big market. So this is a beginning. I understand that. And but certainly we could not certainly cover the whole world. But I like it that we have a focused approach. But I think my takeaway is also based on Councillor Shiu is talking about. We need to, in a sense that, and also the input from the director, we have to have that brand out and in the open, and I use those terms as well. I'm not going to repeat all the cool words you said, but there's certainly more work to be done. Before I call the vote, I just want to see, because we have members just joined us not long ago as well. One more call. Any comments, questions for either our team or Mr. Elliott while he's here? Seeing none, I'd like to thank you very much. But also a comment is some of this takes a lot of planning resources or maybe teamwork. Because as I know, some of the council members, Malcolm, are already somewhere outside Canada doing the economic development thing. And our Mayor Dave Barrow also have been 2 times with trade mission. Once in Israel, once in China. The one in China is 2010, a long time ago. But in any event, all those in favor of the motion in front of us is carry. Mr. Kirk, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Elliott. And then we move on to the next scheduled business item, 5.2 on, I like that, moving forward, 2024 Investment Attraction Program. So there's no presentation here. Would you like to? Oh, no. Okay. I will just give you an opportunity, Director. You might want to say a few words if you would like as a lead in, and then I will come back to committee members. See anyone have any questions, comments? Director.
Through you, Mr. Chair, building on the presentation that that committee just heard, staff has prepared a 2024 investment attraction program. The intent of the program is to continue to advance implementation of the investment attraction strategy while building in the recommendations of the subsector strategy. And so this report is essentially outlining the key activities that we intend to advance in 2024 towards the implementation of the strategy. So with that, happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Now I turn that to committee members, and I think that we have this agenda item 5.2 report about, we heard about a review and some suggestion by our consultant moving forward. So this is exactly where we're in. For example, page 12, well, I mean, the whole package, page 4 of the report, did say initiate foreign direct investment program, which is one of them. But I would like to see if any committee members first have any questions, and also like to move the motion to receive this particular report in front of us. And I take it at this point in time, it's only for information. So any committee members have any questions or comments, and also like to move the motion to receive this report for information. Mayor West, you'd like to speak on it?
No, I think the report speaks for itself. I mean, I think all of this is good work that this committee is here to hear about, and it's all about making our economic development activity work so that we have a vibrant economic community like we have now and into the future. So I'm happy to move that, and I thank staff for the work that they've done on this and the other reports that we're dealing with today.
Thank you very much, Mayor West. We have the committee members. I saw some nodding, but also if you have any questions, comments, please raise your hand, or virtual hand. One more time. If not, I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor of the motion to receive this report for information by Mayor West is carried unanimously. Mr. Kirk, and we are moving to our other portion of the scheduled business, which is 5.3. And this is regarding 2022, the year that was passed in review. And again, we have a report. Not only that, I believe that I brought into the office, I believe is also nicely print out, colorful report. So on that note, I take it we don't need any presentation as such. As like Mayor West just said, this colorful brochure speaks for itself. Any committee members have any questions, information, comments? Please feel free to raise a virtual hand. As well, I'm looking for a committee member to move the motion that this staff report of the 2022 year in review be received for information. Councillor Michael Shield, thank you for moving the motion. Seeing none seem to have any question or comments, I'll call the vote. All those in favor receiving this for information as well. Carried unanimously. Mr. Kirk. So moving to business item 6, which is the date of next meeting at the call of the chair. So at this time, I will be working with the economic development staff for the upcoming opportunity. Perhaps we're looking in 2024. We just received a report for information. So I sense that staff would bring back some of the work plan for 24, and that's at the time when I will call the meeting. So without any other business, I would ask a member be kind enough. You don't have to compete for it, but I'm looking for the first person to raise the virtual hand to move for adjournment of the committee. Mayor West, you run the way. So any discussion? All those in favor of Mayor West's motion to adjourn the committee meeting, thank you very much. It's passed unanimously. Have a great afternoon. I hope everyone have a good week and see hopefully all of you in Chamber in a couple of days. Thank you.